Hello, and welcome to episode 90 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. I can't believe it's 90, only 10 episodes until our 100th episode, which, like I said, I'm going to have something special for you, so stay tuned for that. All right, so today's episode, I am interviewing Elizabeth Lord Levitt of Elizabeth P. Lord Residential Design, and let me tell you a little bit more about her. Specializing in residential design and construction, Elizabeth's energetic approach to her designs is a culmination of almost 20 years in the remodeling industry. Elizabeth started as a lead designer for a highly regarded design build firm in Seattle and parlayed that into establishing her own award-winning design firm in Denver, Colorado. She has achieved numerous industry certifications and has a master's degree in real estate construction management from the University of Denver, which she applies her construction knowledge to her designs, resulting in completed projects that are not only aesthetically impactful, but practical and obtainable. She also holds a real estate broker's license, teaches construction basics at local interior design school, and is currently on the board of Interior Design Society Denver chapter, where she holds the vice president position. Elizabeth also guest lectures at local and national design industry events on an array of design and construction topics, and is the founder of Built for Design Residential Academy, which provides residential construction education curated for interior design industry through e-course and corporate trainings. She currently resides in Denver with her husband and two young daughters, Betty and Lucy. She has such a wealth of information. We talk a lot about construction, which is usually a weak point for designers getting into it who have not really done projects themselves. And so I have actually included her courses as a reference in my design mentor for those who are looking to get a little bit more education about construction. So let's talk with Elizabeth. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast. So great to have you here.
Thank you, Rebecca. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and we were talking offline about how we are like-minded, just wanting to invest in designers who are up and coming. And so let's hear a little bit about your background and how you got into interior design and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. So I'm originally from Seattle, and I started out at a design build firm there, and I loved it. It was female owned, and we had 5 crews, and it was amazing. I mean, I got to really be involved in the design and the build side of it. Then the economy hit, and it was tough. We laid off everyone but myself and the 2 owners. And so I ended up doing the design, sitting across from my project manager and talking through, hey, if I move this, what will this cost? And that started to develop this really kind of organic and really in-depth understanding of construction when it came to my designs. So knowing these construction costs when I'm designing spaces not only brings these projects to fruition because I'm designing to a budget, but it also can be functional. So they laid off everyone but myself and the 2 owners. I worked there for a little bit and then ended up moving to Denver and got my master's in real estate and construction management at the University of Denver. It was myself and 19 men.
Wow.
As you can imagine, they were very much into commercial development. And I was like, I love interior design and residential construction. So it was definitely a different mindset. But I loved Denver. So I ended up reestablishing my company here. And it's been great. I've been here for 12 years. About 5 years ago, I started to meet interior designers that had this lack of knowledge in construction. And I went to Heritage School of Interior Design's, the director, and said, do you guys teach construction in your curriculum? And she said, no, but I'd love to integrate it in. So I created a curriculum that is construction basics for interior designers. And the class has been hugely beneficial. These students, they learn all the basics of interior design and they're designing kitchens in their courses, but they're not necessarily understanding like what a header is or who puts in a gas line. So it's great that they can design those spaces, but
Hmm.
ultimately trying to articulate those designs to a contractor can be really overwhelming for them. So
Yeah.
I'm on a bit of a mission to promote construction knowledge in the interior design field. So
Well,
that's
I
where I am.
love that so much. I think that is definitely a needed aspect of the industry that a lot of residential designers don't get into
Mhm.
necessarily. And it's the knowledge that can really set you apart and really help your projects run smoothly. I think that's great. I myself did not have any construction education going through design
Yeah.
school. It wasn't until I worked for an architect where I had to do, detailed drawings and things like that, where I started to understand. But I'm like, you're going to have to explain this to me. I do not understand how this like beam and header like meet up and the joists and all that stuff. But really, I think being on site definitely can help with that. So, do
Mhm.
you encourage your pupils to go on site or do you take them on field trips and things like that?
I definitely do. I tell them the most knowledge you're going to get is being on a job site. So I offer my students outside of, our 2 hours a week, the opportunity to come and shadow me on job sites if they want. And a lot of them have taken me up on that. I also really talk to my students about volunteering with Habitat. I
Mm,
think that
yeah.
the ability to be on a job site, work along trades, and actually do some of the work. I've
Mhm.
done a few in Seattle, a few in Denver, and I've done one in New Zealand. And I picked
Oh.
New Zealand because they have building codes and they have earthquakes. So there was a lot more applicable to what I wanted to do and learn. And that 2 weeks on that job site I learned so much. It was unbelievable. I mean, you really see a house come together. It was panelized construction. So they would fold the wall up and it already had the framing for the windows and the doors. But we took it from a platform all the way through, I think we took it through drywall in a 2 week span. So rough-ins and insulation and everything. And we worked alongside the family, but that can be a really wonderful opportunity to just like get a fire hose of knowledge
Hmm.
quickly and really get back as well at the same time.
Hmm. Now, this comes up a lot, especially because I'm in California, where we cannot hire subcontractors directly unless we have our contractor's license.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't looked into it myself. It's something that a few designers will get their contractor's license, but maintaining that and like having all the insurances and all that thing that goes
Mm-hmm.
along with it seems daunting, really, like
Mm-hmm.
for at least for our state. And I know some states also require it, but others, they don't require it for designers to hire subs directly. What's your experience with that whole genre?
So we don't require that. RGCs do have to be licensed in each county, and so some counties are different with different regulations, which is crazy because they're like right next door to another one, and their requirements for window R values are like totally different. And you're like, well,
Oh,
that doesn't make sense. Not that
yeah.
far. So some contractors locally will not get licensed in certain counties because they just find the building department is kind of a nightmare. But designers here can hire subcontractors. I think to me it's what you're comfortable with being able to project manage. If you
Hmm.
don't feel comfortable, hire a general contractor. They're licensed, they're bonded, they're insured. But being able to, again, articulate your design, being on the job site, working with those trades, again, you get to meet them, plumbers, electricians, talk to them. For me, it's a wealth of knowledge that I think you don't necessarily learn in school, but being able to
Hmm.
be on the job site. So being licensed in Colorado, yes, doing construction, you have to pull a permit if it's over 4 feet of drywall and those kinds of things. But if you're not comfortable, then hire a GC to manage those projects.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you recommend that designers get this basic education if it's not like a class that's offered everywhere?
Sure.
What can they do to kind of get some more or do Habitat for Humanity, of course, but like is there another way that they can get this construction knowledge?
Sure. So, I think you can definitely go back to school for it, but I don't know if that's necessarily the best fit for everyone. Being
Hmm.
an interior designer, you don't necessarily have to be a 4 year degree. My plumbers, my electricians, they don't need to have a college degree and they're making a lot of money. So for me, I think that these trade schools can be a really great opportunity if you wanted to do basic construction knowledge. The NKBA has some badges that are the remodeling badge or
Mm.
floor plan and specification badge where you can learn some of the stuff that is attributed to construction that can help you develop that. I'm in the works of building a business that's going to be curated for construction for interior designers for
Okay.
this education component, because I haven't found anything on the market where it's basic knowledge that designers should have. And it's not going to be for all designers because most
Hmm.
designers have that knowledge, but coming out of interior design school, working as an intern or a assistant designer,
Hmm.
sometimes you're asked to do stuff that you don't feel comfortable with. And when it's construction related and there's no coursework or education out there for it, it's been great. So I've been speaking a lot, public speaking events, workshops about how to kind of develop this construction knowledge in your interior design, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, that's really good. And there's a lot of things that I don't realize until I'm on the job because I've been doing it for 15 years plus,
Yeah.
I know that certain things will come up and my contractor will mention vocabulary or thing, like floor joists or ceiling,
Yeah.
and then my other designer or an intern or something will have no idea what he's talking about. And then it's
Right.
just like, oh yeah, these things like I learned over time, but it was gradual. Like I didn't
Totally.
get there initially. So yeah, I can see that having this knowledge when you go on site can really help you work with your trades better. Do you
Yep.
think that the trades nowadays would be intimidated or like open to you having this knowledge? Because I feel like sometimes, and maybe this is just in the past, but like they'll be a little bit
Annoyed.
annoying. Yeah, if you're trying to tell them how to do their job,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that the knowledge that we have as designers, and obviously some is more extensive than others, we have a basic knowledge. So for example, with lighting, I do my lighting plans and I have been trained in lighting and I do my lighting plans for my residential projects. And I'll have electricians go, well, that's not really how we do it. Like I want
mm,
to light up the hallways, not the countertops in the kitchen. And I'm like, that's cute. If you want to work on my job sites, we'll follow my electrical plan because
mm,
I'm trained in it. Sometimes these complacent old school trades aren't open to learning new things. And it's you as a designer kind of making the choice of, is this someone I want to work with in the future? My general contractors that I work with and my trades are incredibly open to me coming on and asking questions. And I think that's how it should be because in
yeah.
the end, it's a benefit to them, right?
Hmm.
You going, okay, if I move this toilet, but if it's in the same joist bay, that's okay because, we only need this much slope. Like those are things that a plumber's like, thank you for thinking about that. Instead of moving the toilet to the other side of the room and we have to build a soffit,
Hmm.
it's, I think that if trades are willing to talk to a designer, even for 10 minutes on a job site, like, why did you do that? They're definitely more receptive to providing that information because it makes you a better designer and it helps them in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So, how do you establish trust and confidence with your contractors on the job site that maybe you haven't worked with before?
Sure. So I find, you can't go into a job site with an ego. If you go on and say, I'm the designer, I'm here to tell you what to do, that's not necessarily the best mindset. So I teach my students, your job site is a team. The client is part of the team, your contractors are a part of your team, your trades are part of your team. For me, you're all working towards the same goal. So being able to work alongside a contractor and a trade contractor and hey, I have a question about this. I don't know that, but I'll do some research and I'll get back to you. You start to develop that trust. Walking on a job site and demanding respect, you're not going to get it. So
Hmm.
even if you feel like you lack a little construction knowledge, if you're eager and you ask questions and you're honest about the depth of your knowledge, contractors are going to be much more willing to work with you and teach you because, again, it benefits them, right?
Hmm.
So they're investing in you to make you a better designer to help them on the job site. So my suggestion for building that trust on these job sites with your trades and your contractors is just to go in with a very open mind, be honest, be very grateful. I take donuts and every time I walk by my plumber, I'm like, Chris, that rough-in looks great. Like it's just a rough-in for a toilet.
Yeah.
But for me, it gives them a sense of value. And I think that then they appreciate your jobs, working on your jobs a lot more.
Hmm. And that's really good advice. Yeah, I can see that being great. And so, the jobs that you work on, like, how big is
Mhm.
your firm? Is it you? Do you have employees?
So it's me right now. I'm a year out from maternity leave. So
Oh,
I got rid of some interns before I went on there because I didn't have a lot of work as I was on maternity leave.
sure. Yeah.
So I usually will have interns or assistant designers with me, and we work on projects that are, from a small mudroom up to full custom homes. And I don't do a lot of new builds unless it's
Okay.
for a client that I've worked with before and I like. I think I'm at the point in my career where I pick my projects based on the people, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the profit. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I like the people and they want me to come help with a basement powder room for their movie theater, area, fine. Like that's fine with
Yeah.
me because I like them. I'm at a point where it's not worth it to me to not have clients I really enjoy working with. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where I think I draw the line of like, I just want nice clients now. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
necessarily about the project size.
Yeah. Yeah. So the construction part, or like once you get into implementation after the
Mhm.
design is done, that can be a really challenging part for clients. How do you manage your clients through that process? Do you always insist that they move out, or it's really hard to live through a remodel. So what do
Oh,
you do with your clients?
so for me, I actually do a public speaking seminar on managing client expectations through construction. And
Nice.
what I kind of speak on is you have to set expectations from the beginning. You
Hmm.
can't in the middle of the project go, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, or like this is going to be a surprise. Construction is incredibly stressful. It impacts your life, your quality of your life. You're straddling your toilet to make your coffee in your powder room because your kitchen is demoed. That is not a normal thing. So
Hmm.
everyone's a little on edge already. It's a huge investment. You're investing in your biggest investment. So as a broker, I also look at from a resale perspective, like how much are we going to invest in your house? And so
Mm.
sometimes these investments can be huge.
Yeah.
And what I do with my clients from the beginning is we walk through kind of the schedule of events. Hey, this first part is going to be you need to empty your kitchen. It's going to be demo. It's going to be really messy. Moving into drywall, it's going to be really messy again, but as we get to the top of what I call the emotional bell curve, you start to see the fun things coming into place and the cabinets are coming in and it's starting to take shape. And all of a sudden they really want to use it and they're excited. And then you have the punch list, which irritates everyone because it's not getting done in time and people aren't there for days at a time. So I think setting those expectations along the way and telling clients, this is not abnormal. You're going to feel this way. So it's totally fine. I'm here that you can vent to, but just know that this is going to be stressful. And I don't have a lot of clients that move out. I mean, I've got a whole custom home that I'm doing right now. It's a total whole house remodel, and the family with their two kids and their two dogs are in the basement.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they kind of were like, hey, it'll be like glamping for a little while. And it's good on you. That's great. But
Yeah.
it's an added expense to move out. And so
Yeah.
it depended on the project size. If it's a kitchen, I tell my clients, great to do in the summertime, right?
Mm.
You can barbecue, you're outside, you're hiking. Most of the time you're on vacation because the kids are out of school. So, being able to strategically schedule your projects can also help with the ease. In
Mm.
Denver in the winter, it's not great to be
Oh,
outside.
yeah.
So if you have an addition that's open and exposed and hasn't been, you know, the siding's not up and the windows aren't up and it's like 2 degrees outside, that can really piss a client off. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, setting the expectations of from the beginning, these are very normal feelings and going from there and being open to them, but setting boundaries of like, you can't call me on a Friday night at 8, but I'm
Hmm.
happy to address your issues, during work hours or whatnot. So
Yeah.
that's how I would manage them just from the beginning.
Yeah. Good. How often do you make your site visits then? Is it weekly or as needed?
It depends on the size of the project. Sometimes it's a
Hmm.
weekly thing. We have a strategic schedule set up and it's like every Tuesday at 8 we go. That's mostly for my bigger projects. For the smaller projects, some clients they don't need that. And
Hmm.
maybe the drywallers, coming on a Monday and then painters are going the next Monday. So you never know necessarily where you are in that schedule. But
Yeah.
I do try to touch base with my clients. If I'm not on the job site, I want to make sure that I'm available to them by phone call or email. Phone calls are kind of hard because, as you know, as a designer, we're with clients and then we're on job sites and then we come home and we have a family. And so you're not listening to voicemails until like 8 o'clock at night and you're not
Right.
wanting to call them back at 8 o'clock at night. So emails are usually the easiest for me or text because I can, hey, you have a question, I can shoot you a text right back if
Hmm.
I'm, in the middle of a job site and they're talking about something else. So
Hmm.
for me, I'm not on the job site all the time, but it just is kind of project applicable.
Yeah. Good. Is there like a project binder you keep on site? I've
Mhm.
recently been working on revamping mine for a project, and so it's very top of mind for me. I was wondering if you like have a standard binder that you create for each job.
I create basically like a Google Drive or a OneDrive is what I use. And so
Hmm.
I give that access to my trades. I have a wonderful contractor that uses Builder Trend. And so we try
Okay.
to use
Yeah.
that to facilitate uploading plans, uploading plumbing specs so that the plumber can log in and see that. It's a wonderful project management tool, but not all general contractors use it.
Yeah.
So I try to provide as much information as I can. Most of the time my spec books are taped up on the walls of the elevations for what is needed, but again, those things change. So then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you've made changes at your desk and it isn't translated to a binder on the job site. That might be an issue when they're roughing something in or framing something out. So I had a friend of mine that started putting QR codes on her spec book pages, and so that would directly link to an updated plan. And I thought that was brilliant, because
Yeah.
we're always modifying these plans, that if this QR code was on every page of your floor plan or spec book, someone can just tap it, go right to that Google Drive, and it has all the updated plans as needed.
That's very smart. Yeah, I like that idea. So that's also interesting that you have your real estate
Mhm.
broker license, right? And so you can really tell your clients what the value is when renovating. So, what is it like, especially for maybe new designers listening or people getting into the industry who might not understand where the most value is or like where people can get the most bang for their buck in a remodel? What would you recommend to your clients?
So I think doing some research on the home before you go maybe to your first meeting, whether it's Zillowing it or looking at the neighborhood. Hanley Wood has a really great magazine called Remodeling Magazine. And every year they come out with this like cost analysis of
Mhm.
remodeling projects. And it's based on either a national level and then it breaks it down to cities. And sometimes a new designer feels intimidated to talk about budget, right, with
Yeah.
a client. And it's like,
Hmm.
ooh, based on what you want to do, that sounds like a lot of work and your budget might not stretch that far. Sometimes that magazine can be a nice, it adds validity to what budgets are in that neck of the woods. So like a medium kitchen remodel on average might be 70 grand in Denver. Well,
Hmm.
that's documented. That's taking things from permit departments and maybe surveys that they sent out. So talking to clients from a resale perspective, I think is really important. I always ask my clients how long they're going to live there,
Hmm.
because that determines, is this project just going to be kind of a, I want it to look nice, but in 5 years when the kids leave, we're going to sell and downsize. Okay, well, let's use a lot of neutral textural elements where it's not personalizing so
Yeah.
much. If they say I'm going to live there forever, then you do whatever you want. I mean, I've done a
Yeah.
spaceship thing. So I don't know if it was it's not in my portfolio,
Yeah.
but it's something that to me, it was like the clients were sci-fi writers and they were like, we're going to do these really wacky things. And I'm like, it's your money, do it. And I'll help you try to make it look nice. But I think as a new designer, talking to clients about the biggest kind of ROIs on your projects would be, kitchens,
Mhm.
bathrooms, and it's depending on that scope. Is it just a pull and replace and we're not moving anything, or is it a full gut moving, toilets, tubs, shower locations?
Hmm.
So kind of the extent of what that scope is would determine that price. But I think that magazine is really helpful for designers to talk about budgets with clients.
So good. Have you noticed, and as we're recording this early 2024, have you
Mhm.
noticed like construction prices increasing a lot over the last few years? Is it like our budgets getting blown out of the water? What is your experience, at least in your part of the country?
I would say, from COVID days, material costs are slowly coming down, if not kind of being steady. I don't see it increasing incrementally. And then it's like, oh, we're like so much beyond that. There was really expensive for a long time during COVID because sourcing the material was hard. And so they
Yeah.
were monopolizing on like, oh, you need hardwood, 4-inch plank red oak. Great. Watch this. You can't have it for months and it's going to be twice as much.
Yeah.
So I think the availability of products has brought the price down, if not staying at the same. What I have found is that I think clients tend to have unrealistic budgets for what they want to do. And so
Yeah.
for me as a designer, it's my job to educate them, right? It's to say, that sounds like a huge scope of work. I'm totally happy to help you with that. Can I tell you what I think you could do for that budget? Because that budget is huge, but it might not get you exactly what you want. Then you let your client make that decision. Okay, maybe if I put in 25 grand more, I could get the Thermador appliances, or I could get that quartzite countertop I really loved that I saw on HGTV. they have to be able to make those decisions for themselves. I think that us is just, we're about educating them. That's a huge budget, but I think for your scope, it probably doesn't fit. Here's what you could get for that scope. Well, I want to take this wall down. Well, you need to invest a little more money. So,
Right.
It's just us talking through it with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a big part of our job is educating the clients because oftentimes they just don't know when they come to us, like what a good budget is. We'll ask, on our intake what your budget is, but they are just guessing, really.
Totally. Or they get terrible information from, like shows where it's like, for 10 grand, I could do this whole kitchen in a week. I know. It's like, that's not necessarily true.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, good. What other great information or advice would you have for designers who are up and coming and looking to get into the industry?
I would say, I'm a big proponent of designations and certifications. I think if you're always continuing your education, you're just going to be one step ahead. So if you want to get certified in the CLIP, so Certified Living in Place Professional, or getting a designation from NKBA or ASID, to me, it just shows that you're willing to learn and the innovation that goes along with this industry. So the AI, new technologies that are coming out, new products that are coming out. To me, I just think that that's just such a benefit for your clients. So if you're a new designer and you feel intimidated, watch YouTubes, take courses online, get certifications, because it just puts you one step ahead of maybe someone who went to school and they're trying to promote their business. If you're certified in aging in place, you're promoting to a certain demographic that might choose you over somebody else. So I'm a big proponent of getting, certified in things and just continuing your education in that realm.
Really good advice. Yeah. Even experienced designers still need to keep up with, the new information coming out, or we can't know everything. So there's always something to learn. So
totally. Yeah. I mean, there's all new stuff. I mean, all this, like the technology with lighting now is so unbelievable that you can route wiring throughout your whole house and be able at night to switch one switch and all of the lights in the house go off. It's the functionality in the smart home that I think as designers, we focus so much on the aesthetics, when I think a lot of it has to be the function of it too. So if it's a new build or a whole house remodel, we should be educated in, let's say, lighting design to talk to a client to say, would this be important to you? And if it is, let's talk about it now before we get to a point where we can't do it. Yeah. So that's why I think, being up to date on kind of the new and improved things that are out on the market just makes you a better designer as a whole.
So good. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
A lot of great advice. Where can people go to find you if they want to learn more from you?
My website is elizabethplord.com, and my business with the curated construction education is builtfordesign.com. I'd love for you guys to check it out, and any feedback in regards to the stuff you'd want to learn about construction-wise. Like I said, I mean, Rebecca and I are we're on the same mindset. We're here to kind of help these new and upcoming designers profit and be successful in this industry. There is enough work for all of us. And I just want to make sure that as designers, we can be an asset on a job site, not necessarily a hindrance. Because I don't know about you, but I have a lot of contractors that meet a client and say, oh, you're working with a designer, and it's like, well, let them meet me, let them meet me. And then they can make their own decisions. And most of them will say, where have you been? Like, I need someone that can help me, not necessarily kind of hinder the process. So that's how I would say with moving forward with new designers and whatnot, get educated, get your certifications and meet some wonderful contractors that you can partner with.
Yeah. And by doing so, elevating our industry, elevating our reputation.
Totally. It's great. It's all benefiting for everyone.
It is. Okay. Well, wonderful. We'll put all those links in the show notes so people can find you. And thank you so much for coming on. It's great talking with you.
Thanks for having me.
I so enjoyed this conversation with Elizabeth. We even met up at KBiz and chatted a little bit because just wanted to meet in person. And she was giving a seminar there. And it's always great to meet these people in person who I meet over Zoom for these podcasts. And she is a lovely person. And we just even talked a lot offline around this podcast of we have similar interests and just very like-minded of helping and mentoring other designers. And I think that what she has to offer is great and a great resource for people not only in Denver who can go and take her classes in person, but her online course as well. So go ahead and check her out. Her links are in the show notes. And don't forget, if you're wanting to work more one-on-one with me, I have my design mentor and a lot of downloads and a quiz for you to take. So check out the show notes. There's a lot of fun things in there. That's it for this week, but stay tuned. I'll have another great episode next week. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.